So where we at right now, we on 57th Street and 7th Court. Actually, this is where it all started for Second Ave Cab back in 1986. And as I'm going to let y'all know in my book, because I'm not going to give too much away, but this stoop right here is the stoop where I first was my introduction to the game right here. That very stoop right there. And actually, in one of my shorts that I put on YouTube, you know, I let everybody know how much money really used to come through this particular block right here. And I get a lot of comments saying, he flogging, it was never like that. This era really wouldn't know the magnitude of the flow of money that was coming through Liberty City back in those days. You know, over there, right here was a whole bunch of bushes right here, a whole bunch of bushes. And actually right here is where we used to keep all the work at, all over here. We used to keep all the work right here. And we used to serve right here on this stoop. And actually I used to serve right there. Like I told y'all on one of my shorts, I used to serve right here in this cut right here. This bar gate wasn't up, but I definitely used to serve everybody right here. You know what I'm saying? So I want you to go ahead and catch that right there. This bar gate wasn't up, and all the bases, you know, all the bases, y'all call them junkies or fiends, but all the bases used to come through this path right here. And, you know, we used to get our serve on right here. And like I tell y'all, man, every day over here, easy 10,000 every 12 hours, man. You know, it may seem unimaginable, but it really was like that. It really was a boatload of bread floating through Liberty City. And I don't want to just, you know, dumb it down to Liberty City, man. I'm talking from Homestead to Miramar, man. You know, it was 1,000 hoods getting a whole lot of money. Case in point, we was over here definitely for a couple of months, and I want to say rest in peace to Rick. Like I said, I ain't gonna give too much away, but I want to say rest in peace to Rick. He was the old coon that I first started serving for, hustling for in 1986. So after a few months being over here, me and my dog, we went from the back street and we went to the front street, which is 56. And when we went over there, that turned me to a whole nother beast. Like, it took me from 1 to 100 overnight on 56th Street over here in the front. I want to say one time for Fat Cat. I ain't seen Fat Cat in close to like almost 40 years. Fat Cat, he was the one that really recruited us to come to work right here in the front on 56th Street. One time for Fat Cat. I ain't gonna call too many names, you know what I'm saying, because like I said, a lot of my OGs, they still living. You know, they civilians now. They living good lives. You know what I'm saying? That's way in their rear view. So I definitely want to, you know, give them the utmost respect without really, you know, calling their names out, because a lot of them still living. And I still go check in with them time to time. I definitely go check in with them time to time. My dog's sister stayed right there in 17. That's where she stayed at. She stayed right there in 17. And my book go give y'all the whole layout, how, you know, how it started from back here up to the front street. But I ain't gonna give y'all too much, but I'm gonna let y'all know she stayed right there in apartment 17 right there. And also, I want you to also remember apartment 7. Remember apartment 7 right there. Keep that in mind. Apartment 7. Because actually apartment 7 played a big part in why we end up leaving from back here, going up here in the front. Those who know from back in the Gap, they know the who's of who that used to be over here on 56th Street. They know who the bosses was. They know who the lieutenants was. They know who the gunman was back in the Gap. And I want to say, this tree here, it may not seem like nothing, but Willie B and Kitchen and Lattimore and all of them used to hide in the trees. And I mean, it's so funny how things used to work back in those days. We could be out here hustling, getting all type of money, in some kind of way. Lattimore and Kitchen and Willie B them, they'll make their way up in the tree and they'll be filming us. Like in 1987, it's like, how we really not notice how they used to get up in them trees. But a couple hours later, they used to jump out on us and chase us all through the apartments right here. But it was just funny how, we thought we was paying attention, but all the while, Willie B and Kitchen them, they used to have the ups on us, like once a month. You know what I'm saying? I just found how I think about it right nowadays, how the hell they managed to do that. So where we going at right now is on the front street. I want to say one time for my OG chick. OG chick, he's still around. That was my first lieutenant right there. Like I said, I ain't gonna call too many names, but one time for my OG chicken man, he was my first lieutenant. And I tell all my viewers, they can't really begin to understand because right now it's peaceful. The aura is quiet, it's different. But man, I'm telling you, close to 40 years ago, it was ridiculous. The foot traffic was ridiculous on this street. Like I thought we was getting a whole lot of cake back there on that back street. But when we came up here, because you got to understand, they had 3 spots over here. They had the base butter and sense. They had the crack, they had the cocaine, and they had the weed. So you got to understand that each of those spots was making 20,000 or better every day. So you got to say 60 or 70,000 were coming right here in these apartments. I know it sounds unbelievable. A nigga ain't flogging. It was that kind of bread floating through here, like every day, regardless. But the difference is, Buddy had over here who we used to work for, he was different from every other dude in the city. He didn't have 12 to 12 shifts. He had 8-hour shifts. He had 3 8-hour shifts. He gave us the opportunity to go to school, get out at 3 o'clock, and we used to work 3 to 11. That was our shift. So he kind of made that to where we can go to school, still get an education, and still come and get money. That was a win-win for us. And too many niggas was doing that. Back in the days, everybody throughout the city house had 12 to 12 shifts. Buddy had 3 8-hour shifts. And this where it all happened at. The apartment still looked the same. They didn't have this by gate right here. And the mailboxes weren't here. Let me show you how we used to do it back in the days. They had mailboxes over here. I'm going to see if the mailboxes are still here, but this is where we used to keep all the work at. I bullshit you not. Look, almost 40-something years later, the mailbox is still here. We had keys to all these mailboxes. And we used to keep all the weed. We used to keep all the base. We used to keep all the coke in all these mailboxes. And we used to switch the keys. We used to switch the mailboxes like every couple of hours. And we'll keep like $1,000 worth of rocks in here, $1,000 worth of coke in here, and $1,000 worth of weed in here. And we'll switch it up. And as far as the weed, I can talk about it now. But as far as the weed, the weed was called Awesome. All my OGs back in the 80s, they know, because back then we didn't have clear bags, how they got now, how they be smoking the gas and all the loud and all that. Back then we had little yellow envelope bags and we used to have the stamps on them. This weed over here was called Awesome. That's how we branded our drugs back in those days. But the weed house was up there in 203. That's what we used to keep. Maybe we used to keep maybe $30,000 or $40,000 worth of weed up there. And every now and then, the lieutenant to bring the weed down, and they'll put $1,000 worth of weed in there, and we was running through $1,000 worth of weed like every hour. Every hour, we was probably running through $1,000 worth of crack. And you gotta understand, we talking nickel rocks. You know how many rocks that is? You know how much foot traffic that is? Was generating back in those days. So all that was snapping. The weed house is up there. The stash house we used to serve down here. Now we go get to Pig. And I mentioned Pig in one of my other videos. I want to say God bless the dead. Rest in peace to my OG Pig. Pig was the lieutenant for the coke. Because you got to understand, on this particular block, of course we had the boss. He'll come around maybe 2-3 times out the week. And I'm just giving y'all bits and pieces. But right here in this section right here, we had the lieutenants. We had lieutenants that was sitting inside the hole. And then we had lieutenants that'll walk up and down the street. Pig was the lieutenant for the coke. And this is what Pig used to post up at right here. Because you had the weed and the crack was right here in the same spot. But all the coke customers used to come right here. This bar gate wasn't up then. This bar gate wasn't up then. But this were all the coke, the powder traffic used to be right here. and there used to be at least 22,000 used to come through here every day. But this what Pig used to post up at. And with my videos, I tell y'all how the dudes came through and it was asking for Pig, and Pig got into the fade. The niggas actually pulled up right here. The niggas pulled up right here, and it was asking for Pig. And that kind of surprised us because my boss, the dude who I was working for, this nigga has so much respect. Like politicians, police, school teachers, everybody know because he went to the West.
Right.
And those who know. But he has so much respect. So when them niggas pulled up and asked for Pig, it kind of shocked us because, you just ain't come through here and press this street like this here. You really didn't do that. But them pulled up, they asked for Pig. Pig was back there with his workers back there counting up. And Pig came from out the cut. And the nigga and Pig went to fighting right here. And Pig did damage to the nigga. I remember like it was yesterday. Pig did damage to the nigga. But unfortunately, a little while later, the niggas, they laid on Pig and they killed Pig, coming out of his house. And kind of find out, they say the niggas who killed him was allegedly from Opalaka. So, but I just want to give y'all a story of that. But this street right here was definitely major. Those apartments, they weren't there back in the 80s. I think you call them Edison apartments or whatever, but they wasn't back here in the 80s. But this street here definitely played a significant part in my upbringing. Back then, they used to call me, Law or Circle K, Second Ave Cav didn't come until years later, but right here, everybody used to call me Cav, but they used to call me Law. And this where it happened at right here, 56th Street and 7th Avenue. So many memories right here. So many memories. $1 million spot times 3. Look how quiet it is. Look how peaceful it is around here. Back in those days, man, it was foot traffic 24 hours a day. Times 3 with the base butter and cents. All day long. And all the neighbors, they knew what was going on, but my boss, he took care of everybody. That's why everything that we learned from him, we took that to New York. He took care of everybody around here. He blessed everybody around here. Paid their rent, paid their light bill, paid their car notes, gave them food. And we just took all that and we ran with that same game. A great dude. Always told us to go to school, get that education first. Always told us that. But at the end of the day, he say, man, at the end of the day, though, get you some fucking money. Get you some money. Get you some fucking money. He definitely embedded that inside a nigga, at 16 years old. But this street here, this where it all started at. Y'all just stick around for the book, for the documentary. It's called NBC, the Nickel Boulder Capital. That's the name of my documentary. And the name of my book that I'm doing is called From Nickels to Brickell. You know what I'm saying? I hear everybody know the transformation, how I started out and how you went from, nickel money to Brickell money. So that's the name of my book that I'm doing. So it's a lot of things coming down the pike, but I just wanted to bring y'all to the essence of it, where it all started at. Right here in this building right here, 731 Northwest 56th Street. This is where it started at. And we talking 1987, 1988. This is where it all started at. Close to 35 years, probably a little over 35 years ago. This is right here.